Okay, now that we've processed the data, cleaned up the data, we can now begin the data processing. So the software will be saved under your programs here, and if you look under Seabird, there are a number of options that we've got that can be used to work with the data. The one we want to use today is this one here. It's SBE-Data processing. So if we select that and open it up, and so here we have a number of options to process the data. Today we're just going to be doing some basic data processing. So the first thing we want to do here is to do data conversion. So if we open that up, okay, and so now we've opened this up and we're ready to start fixing this up so that we can process our data. The first thing we want to do is select the instrument configuration file for the instrument that we've been using. Now in this case the instrument was 1469, so we need to go to our file that has all the configuration data, and in this case I've just saved this to my desktop. And if I open that up here, you can see there's a number of options I've got here for our CTDs. The one we're going to be using today is this 1469-2014. That's when the instrument was last calibrated. So what we need to do is we need to go into select and go to our file and select 1469, and that's fine because this was set up previously for the SBE-25, so there's some of the parameters we process for are different. Now what we want to do is we want to go to data setup, and here we want to select the variables we want to process for, and we'll open that up, and here we've got a number of parameters that have been put in for other instruments. We've got depth, temperature, salinity, oxygen, and what I'll do is I'll just remove all those and show you how to select those for your particular instrument. So for depth you come into here. If you're working in a marine environment, you select salt water and then select meters. Here you've got to select the latitude you've been working in. So if you're working around Dunedin, it would be -45, which is 45 degrees south. If you're working, say, the Auckland Islands, it might be 50, or even down in Antarctica it would be -70, 75. So here we will just put -45. The next thing we want to do is salinity, which is here in practical salinity units, and temperature. In this case we select ITS 90, which is just the most recent standard for the calculation of the temperature. All our CTDs have oxygen sensors and fluorometers on them, so the next thing we'll do is select for our oxygen. All the oxygen sensors are what's model number SBE-43, so this is the model we're using here. So I always just select milliliters per litre and select OK, and percent saturation. Now any of these can be your choice, depending on what sort of work you're doing. And if we select fluorescence, it's up there, and it's the wet star, wet lab. Now there are other things you can select for. If we wanted to, we could do sound velocity, and the various options we've got there. You could do all these other potential temperature and things like that, depending on what you are interested in. So here we've selected the variables we're interested in today. So we'll just click OK, and so that's that part of it done. We only ever process the downcast because the water intake for the CTDs is on the bottom, and so the water coming into the unit is much smoother when it's getting lower down, and also when it's getting pulled up through the water column, it's coming through disturbed water. So we always just process the downcast. Okay, so now that we've selected our variables and which data we're going to process, we can now come over and select the data that we want to actually process. So here we've got, if we just go and select here and navigate our way to the folder where the data is stored. In this case it's sitting on the desktop. go. And if we select all these hex files, and so if you hold the shift key down, I'll just do that a bit slower. So you select the top one, hold the shift key down, and then select the bottom one. You can select all the files that you wish to process. Yeah, and we will change that to that directory. Here, if you wish, you can append a name to the process data. I generally haven't been doing that. What we will do is we will open up a folder in here for the process data. So we'll put Murray 49. And under here I'll open a couple of folders. Oops. For the CNV files, which are the first processing step, and then I'll also open up one for the ASCII files, which will be the next processing step that I'll show you a bit later. So what I'll do is I will save the process data to the CNV. Click OK. And then the next step is just to select Start Process, and hopefully, if we've done everything correctly, it will process the data. Okay, and that's the data. That's the first step of the processing done. It's quite a quick process. So if we now go to our folder and have a look, here, we'll see this is our process data. So if I open up one of these files, you can see there all the header information, which includes the time that it was uploaded to the computer, the file name. Here is the time that the cast was taken and the date the cast was taken, the number of samples. Here we have the parameters that we've processed for, and these ones here are the maximum and minimum of each of the respective parameters. And then if we scroll down, there's a lot of other information, and then we hit the actual data that we've been processing for, and you can see here that the depth is the first one, and then the various parameters as we go through show up. And so that looks all okay. So that's the first processing step done. Now what you can do if you wish, and if you're going to be repeating this process again and again and again, is you can actually save this processing step so you don't have to reinvent the wheel every time. So if you come up to the program setup file and you click Save As, you can save that setup anywhere you want. And so in this case we will save it into the folder that we've been processing the data into. Murray 429, and we'll just call that Murray 429. Data conversion, and just click Save. And if we've done this correctly, it should be in the folder where we've been working. There we go, there it is down there. And so that's the first part of the processing done.